Hello everybody, welcome to today's class. We're looking at phrasal verbs and idioms today. I'm taking all of these from a book called Advanced Phrasal Verbs and Idioms, and it's very easy to find if you look for it online on Google or on Amazon. It's a white book. But I want to remind you all that if you do want to buy a phrasal verbs book, I do have a phrasal verbs book available and it's selling very well. So I want to thank everybody out there who's bought a copy. All the phrasal verbs today are in this book, but not all the idioms. And so not everything that's on the board is in this book, but all of the phrasal verbs that I could find went into this book. Now, the first one is certainly in there. You can buy that book, by the way, from my website, skypelessons.com. In e-form, but you can buy it on Amazon too if you prefer a physical book. Yeah, it's available in PDF on skypelessons.com for £20, but it's available on Amazon black and white for £20. Good morning, Anna. So play somebody off against somebody. This is an excellent phrasal verb. I think in my book I talk about this in terms of children and their parents. Children very often play their mother off against their father. Now, what does this mean? This means that they try to gain some kind of advantage by making the mother and the father compete. Yeah, it's a very specific phrasal verb. So perhaps, I think all children do this to some extent. Perhaps the child knows that the father will let him stay up late and he will use that advantage. He'll make sure that maybe the parents have split up and he knows that both parents want to be nice to him. So he plays one off against the other. Maybe the parents are competing for his attention. And so he uses that to his advantage to get what he wants. Okay, now if that's not clear, another way of understanding this is what I just read in another book where I saw the sentence that the company was playing one supplier off against another supplier. Now, both the suppliers want to supply the company with the product, but by playing one company off against another company, you can get them to reduce the price. Yeah, so you make two people compete to gain some kind of advantage. That's what play somebody off against somebody else means. Play one supplier off against another supplier. Okay, let's keep going. To cut somebody out of a deal, or to freeze somebody out of a deal, and again, both of these are in here, certainly. If you cut somebody out of the deal, you exclude them. And if you freeze somebody out of the deal, you exclude them. So cut out the middleman, this means exclude the middleman. Now, if you're not sure what a middleman is somebody who acts between two players in a deal, and he takes a percentage. He takes a cut, we say. He takes a cut of the profit. He takes a percentage. So perhaps if you're an online tutor and you have a business that finds you students, they would be a middleman, really. They're setting up the student and the teacher. They're acting as an intermediary, and that would be another word for a middleman, but much more formal. Intermediary, they're acting as an intermediary between the teacher and the student, and because they're setting up the lesson, they would be a middleman. Now, of course, I like to cut out the middleman, and I think most people do because they don't like the idea of somebody else taking some of the profit. So cutting out the middleman is usually a very positive thing in terms of your profits. Okay, to be in the right place at the right time, very common idiom. It means what it says it means. It means to be lucky. You're luckily in the right place and in the right time, yeah? Or sorry, at the right time. You're fortunate enough to be in some kind of position to take advantage of that kind of position, of that opportunity. So do remember, take advantage of something as well. It's very useful. And if you're in the, if you happen to be in a place and at a time where you can take advantage of something, then you're in the right place at the right time. Okay, if you pay off all your debts, I've put a little 2 here just to show you that it's got at least 2 meanings. It's probably got more, and I try to cover all those meanings in that book. But if you pay off all your debts, you completely pay your debts. It means completely pay then. Pay off all your debts. If you pay off your student loan, you completely pay your student loan. You don't need to pay anything else. But there is another meaning to this word, and it means to be successful when the results of something are good. then the results, then that endeavour, that attempt pays off. So you might try a new business strategy at work, and if it pays off, it's great, it's got good results. So think about pull something off, which means do something successfully, or bring something off, which means do something successfully, or even when something comes off. Intransitive with come, transitive with bring. That's a pattern you want to pay attention to, because you very often see that pattern, come as intransitive and bring as transitive. So come off means when something is successful, yeah. If something came off well and then it went very well, it was successful. And so if something pays off, maybe you've been going to the gym for the last few weeks to lose some weight and it paid off. You lost loads of weight. Yeah, it means you were successful. It had good results. So if something is a roaring success, then it's really successful. And I think we very often use this with businesses, but also with performances in the theatre. You could say the play was a roaring success, or the opera was a roaring success, something like that, meaning loads of people came to see it and it was very profitable. And you should also remember this roaring, I agree it's quite strange to see an adjective like that here, but think about do a roaring trade, which is another idiom. I'm actually writing a new book now on idioms and phrasal verbs because that last one was so popular. It's encouraged me to write another book, and I've just put this idiom in there. And it was when somebody sold a lot of a particular type of product, they did a roaring trade. And so any company that's selling loads of a product, they're doing a roaring trade. So roaring success, roaring trade, they collocate very well, and it means a really successful project or a very profitable project with roaring trade. You're selling and selling and selling when you're doing a roaring trade. Now, if you rest on your laurels, this is normally something quite negative, because it means that you're satisfied with your achievements, so satisfied that you don't want to do anything else. You decide to relax, to sit back. And so maybe you get really good exam results when you're 16 and you decide to rest on your laurels. You think, wow, I'm just so amazing, it's really quite easy for me, I'm going to relax for the next couple of years. And then you rest on your laurels and you only scrape through your exams when you're 18. Yeah, if you remember scrape through, again, it's in my phrasal verb book. To scrape through means to only just pass. It's the opposite of to sail through, which means to get really good marks, top marks in the exam. You sail through, and borderline pass, you scrape through. So yeah, if you rest on your laurels when you're 17, 18, you might only just scrape through your A levels, your 18-year-old exams. So try not to rest on your laurels, always be ready for the next challenge. Now, if you plough something back into somewhere, this is usually profits. You usually plough profits back into somewhere. And when you do this, you take those profits and put them back into the business usually. You usually plough your profits back into the business. Not everybody does. Some people decide to take their profits and spend them. But you could plough your profits back into the business, which just means take all your profit and invest it in the business. If the business is going strong, it's doing very well, it's successful, it's a successful business. Okay, that's all that means, to be going strong. If something's performance is going strong, it's doing well, it's succeeding. Now, if you keep one step ahead of somebody, for example, keep one step ahead of the competition, that would collocate very nicely. That just means that you want to stay in front of the competition. Yeah, you want to stay in front of them, because if you're in front of them, then it sounds like you know more about the future. You know more about the business that you're in, and you're more prepared. You're one step ahead of them. You're more prepared for anything that might happen. So to keep one step ahead of somebody, usually it's your rival, your competitor, and it means just be more prepared than they are, be more ready for whatever might happen. To miss the boat means to miss an opportunity. Miss out on would be a great phrasal verb to remember here, because when you miss out on something, you miss an opportunity. Yeah, it's not just like miss a bus, which is admittedly an opportunity perhaps, but if you miss the bus or you miss a lesson, that just means you fail to turn up at the right time to the lesson, and you miss the bus, you come late for the bus. But if you miss out on something, it's something good. You can't miss out on something bad. You can only miss out on an opportunity. And it's when you don't take advantage of that opportunity. So miss the boat or miss out on something, they both mean miss an opportunity. To delude yourself into thinking, it's usually thinking here, the word here is usually thinking. If you delude yourself into thinking something, you're deceiving yourself. That's all. You're deceiving yourself. You're deluding yourself. Delude yourself means deceive yourself in some kind of way. And so if the managers in a company delude themselves into thinking that profits will double, but actually they halve. Yeah, they've deluded themselves into thinking that the business is going strong, that they'll be able to plow all these profits back into the business, but actually they're deluded. They've deluded themselves into thinking that they'll be able to pull it off, that they'll be able to get big profits for that particular period of time. Okay, if you flood the market with something, you put loads of that product onto the market. To flood anything means that lots comes in, yeah? If people flood into the stadium, and again, this phrasal verb's in the book, if people flood into the stadium, they come into the stadium in great numbers, yeah? Because a flood is when water's everywhere, right? And there's so much water everywhere that you have to swim. So if people flood into the stadium, there's loads of them. And if somebody floods the market with iPhones, it means that they put loads of iPhones on the market. But if you flood the market with whatever it is, it could be vegetable oil, it means you put loads of vegetable oil onto the market. Now, to cut corners, it means to try to economize, to try to save money by doing certain things. For example, there are lots of ways in which you could cut corners, but it's when you try to save money by reducing your expenses. However, there is something about cut corners where it sounds quite negative, and it sounds like the savings that you're making are not justified. Yeah, what that means, in other words, the service is getting worse and worse and worse because you're cutting corners. Yeah, so when a business cuts corners, usually the service gets worse, and that's why I say this is a little bit negative, really. You don't want to cut corners if possible, because when you cut corners, when you try to make savings, the service gets worse or the product gets worse. So it's not a very positive thing to cut corners, but this is what it means. If you're cutting corners, then you're making savings in some kind of way. A false economy is when you try to economize because you think, who doesn't want to save money? However, it actually ends up costing you more money. So a good example is when you buy some low quality product. Maybe you decide to try to make a saving and you buy computers for everybody in the firm, but you buy the cheapest possible computer. And then half of the computers stop working in the first 6 months. That would be a good example of a false economy, because you have to buy new computers then. You were trying to save money. Yeah, that's why you bought the cheap computers. But now half of them are not working. You need to buy in a load more. And so it would have been cheaper to actually buy the more expensive computer. And so this is a false economy, when you try to make savings, but it ends up being more expensive. And it's very common, actually. There are a lot of ways in which we try and make savings, but we end up shooting ourselves in the foot. There's another good idiom, to shoot yourself in the foot. We end up shooting ourselves in the foot, and it's a false economy. It ends up costing us more money. Yeah, when you shoot yourself in the foot, you end up doing something which you're trying to, help yourself, but you end up harming yourself. That's what happens when you shoot yourself in the foot. And when you try and falsely economize, you shoot yourself in the foot. You end up spending far more money. You have to fork out on extra things, even though you were trying to save money. Now, if you're in deep water, you're in a very dangerous position. It's logical, yeah, anybody who's been stranded in deep water in the middle of the open sea will understand that this is not a pleasant place to be, and you're probably frightened, you're scared, and so you're in deep water. You're in a very dangerous position. If the business is in deep water, it means maybe they're going to go bankrupt, maybe they're going to go to the wall. Okay, to cut your losses. This is usually when you're already losing. Yeah, you're losing money. Maybe it's a business and it's losing money. And so you decide to sell up. You decide to sell all the shares in the business in order to minimize your losses. So cut your losses is when you minimize your losses. So it's negative, right? Because you're losing, but it's positive in the sense that you say, right, I can't lose any more. So you could use this even if you're in the casino and maybe you're playing roulette and you're £300 down. And you think, this is only going to get worse. I'm going to cut my losses and leave the casino now. Otherwise, in an hour, I could be £600 down. So that would be cut your losses as well. To be caught on the hop means to be caught totally unprepared for something. Okay, to be caught unprepared would be a synonym. To be caught on the hop. But it's quite similar. It reminded me of to be caught unawares, which is not quite the same, because I'd say this is to be caught by something that you didn't expect, and this is to be caught unprepared when you are unprepared. So maybe if you maybe you don't take your raincoat, you don't take any of your warm clothes when you go on holiday, but the weather's terrible, so you're caught unawares in the rain. You're not ready. You weren't expecting rainy weather, and so you're caught unawares. But you are also caught on the hop because you're not ready for the rain, and so that's why I see a lot of similarity between these two. But technically, this is unprepared, and this is unaware. In other words, you're not expecting what happened. To make a comeback means that you've had a period of not much success, but then you come back and you're successful again. Very often we use this for musicians. Sometimes people forget about an old musician. They're no longer buying his music anymore. He's not touring anymore. And then suddenly he makes a comeback. He starts touring again. He makes some new songs. People start listening to him again. He makes a comeback. But a business can make a comeback if they're doing terribly and worse and sales have fallen off, profits are dropping, plummeting maybe, and then suddenly they get a new boss, a new manager, and he turns the business round and they make a comeback. Yeah, so a business can make a comeback as well. If you do something up, you decorate it, okay? If you do your place up, you decorate it. It has a second meaning. It's probably got a third meaning as well, but you can do up your shoes, yeah, or do up your tie, or do up your coat, yeah, meaning button up, zip up, fasten. But if you do up your flat, you're decorating it in some kind of way. So it's do up means to make more beautiful, right? Think about these ones, to jazz something up, to make it more exciting or interesting, to sex something up, to make it more sexy in some kind of way. Girls doll themselves up, which means they make themselves more pretty. Yeah, when they're going out, maybe they're going to a wedding, they want to dress up. There's another one, dress up. They want to dress up. They want to make themselves more beautiful. Yeah, if you dress up, you make yourself more beautiful. So girls doll themselves up, but boys spruce themselves up. Again, if you like these phrasal verbs, they're all in here. Although this is only phrasal verbs, it's not idioms as well. Idioms will be coming soon, perhaps in March or April. I'll finish the second book and I'll get that out as well. I'll bring that book out, yeah, I'll publish it, I'll put that book out. Okay, if you bring somebody in, or if you call somebody in, it means you find a professional because you need a particular job done. So, for example, I need an electrician at the moment, and so I called an electrician in. I brought him in. He's here at the moment, I think. Maybe he's gone already, but he should be in the house doing some wiring. And so I brought him in, I called him in because I need some new lights in a new room. Okay, so that's when you bring somebody in, you call somebody in, you hire a professional because you need that particular service. If sales fall off, they plummet, they drop, they start to go down. Decrease is probably better than plummet, which means rapidly decrease. But they decrease, yeah. Sales have decreased, sales have fallen off. Sales aren't going well at the moment, yeah. They're not. The business isn't going strong if sales have fallen off. And one last one, which I think is quite interesting, to be in the doldrums. I don't suppose many people have heard this idiom before, but it is one which I'm very familiar with because I've heard people use it quite often, and it's certainly in books and places like that, but you hear people use it in speech too. Now, it means to be in a bad position. You very often use it when your company's not making any money or something like that, then you're in the doldrums. But it's when you're not successful, not profitable, something like that. Now, where does it come from? I often like to look at where these idioms come from because it will help. It just helps you remember what they mean. The doldrums is a place in the ocean or in the sea where there's no wind. So the ship, hundreds of years ago, couldn't move anywhere when it was in the doldrums. It just couldn't move. It couldn't go forwards. So when your business is in the doldrums, you can't go forwards. When you are in the doldrums, you can't move anywhere. There's no wind. There's nothing pushing you forward. So that's why to be in the doldrums is negative, and it means to be in an unsuccessful position where it doesn't look like there's any activity or anything that's coming that will change your fortune and make the business do well again. Okay, I hope all of those are clear. I hope I haven't made any mistakes anywhere. If anybody's interested in more phrasal verbs, please, you can find it on Amazon, visual phrasal verbs, £20 for black and white or £35 for colour if you like physical copies. But if you like the PDF copy, it does have hyperlinks to make it very easy to jump to the answers and jump back again. And so do go to skypelessons.com and pick up a PDF copy if you prefer to work with that kind of copy, a PDF copy. Okay, thanks everybody for watching. I better go now, but I hope to see you all soon, and please like and subscribe, and more importantly, buy the book, and I hope that it helps you. Okay, thanks for watching.